sometimes you have to, no matter how much soul you want to infuse in your art, you have to still look at it from a very practical, step-by-step perspective, So I've literally broken my art down into these specific steps that I need to follow to make my art create that impact.
The goal isn't to live forever. The goal is to create something that will.
Welcome to Perspective, a podcast for wedding creatives, where we sit down often with a special guest and talk about our many years of experience in the wedding industry so that you can learn from us and grow your wedding business. On today's episode of Perspective, we're talking to London-based, multi-award-winning child, newborn, pregnancy, maternity and family photographer Sujata Setia of But Natural Photography. In the span of over a few years, Sujata has achieved immense international recognition in terms of her awards and publishing of her work, which includes being featured in such publications as Forbes, the Daily Mail, Vanity Fair, Good Housekeeping and Country Living magazines, amongst others. We'll be covering everything Sujata in this discussion, including her work with elderly couples and newborns and how she creates art with soul. If you're struggling with the journey of finding your voice or even just need to understand what that means, you should listen to this episode. It should be a good listen. And it is an episode which is sponsored by With Jack and for a limited time by beans.ie. So Greg, what are we drinking on today's episode?
We are drinking the latest delivery from beans.ie, and it's the Onyx Coffee Roasters, who I believe are from Arkansas?
Arkansas?
Yeah. And it's the Monarch blend, which is a blend of Ethiopian and washed Latin American coffees. Extracts as a fruit-forward classic, espresso, or a dark filter coffee. You've brewed up. Has this been brewed as an iced coffee, or is this just coffee with ice added to it?
This is coffee with ice added to it to make it a nice iced coffee. So let me know how you think I did.
Quite nice. It's good for a summery day.
Yeah, that is quite good. Even though it's absolutely pissing it down in Scotland right now, it's terrible. But as photographers, filmmakers and business owners, we know the power of stories, and beans.ie do too. They started because they knew there were so many stories to tell about the world of coffee, and not just about the regions and varieties, but about the people behind the beans, the roasters, and us, the drinkers. This is the most flexible coffee subscription that we've ever used, showcasing some of the top roasters around the world who bring something different to your table. You've been listening to Greg and I talk for years now about what we've been drinking at our podcast table, but now you can join us. Curate your own monthly subscription from an ever-changing list of beautiful coffees, and because we love you so much, we are going to hook you up with an awesome promotional code. If you use promo code Perspective15, you can get 15% off your first order. That's promo code Perspective15 to get 15% off your first order for coffees with stories sent straight to your door. Sujata, thank you. How are you?
I'm very well, Simon. I'm so sorry.
It's fine. Don't worry about it. We like to think this podcast is a casual conversation about what we love to do. But yes, thank you for joining us, for taking the time and being a part of this podcast.
Excited to be here.
Yeah. So are you drinking anything in particular where you are?
Nothing right now, but I cannot function if I haven't had my cup of coffee first thing in the morning. So yeah, I've had that already.
Good
stuff.
And what do you tend to like to drink? Are you a black coffee kind of gal, or
yes, I am.
Yeah, so no milk, no sugar?
Just a little bit of my soy milk and that's it.
Keeping it easy. Nice. So what have you been up to recently?
Just working on a couple of projects. Just photography, trying to acclimatize myself with the ever-changing weather in our country and life in general. Yeah. Lots and lots of photography in between, yes.
Mm-hmm. How's the weather been like for you? Because for us up here last week, I mean, it was so warm.
Yeah, it was a heat wave.
Yeah. What's it like down where you are?
Here in London, it just pretty much changes every single second. So while I'm talking to you, it was sunny, and then now it's suddenly become grey, and I'm sure it's going to rain as well.
Yeah.
So, how they say that British people are very boring if they had not had their weather to speak about.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I like to think I'm a little bit more interested in the weather, but it just seems to be just crazy at the moment.
Yeah,
it is.
We've had quite a busy last month. With June was quite busy with weddings. We had 4 or 5 weddings, quite a few midweek weddings as well.
We did, yeah.
But strangely, like obviously with weddings, the calendars are all over the place right now. So the way it's worked, last month was busy, but July, which is usually a busy month, is quite quiet. It's a bit strange.
Yeah. It's quite interesting. Our listeners will know I've got 3 children. Obviously, they're off school right now, so I feel like my world has totally been flipped upside down because having to entertain 3 kids is actually quite challenging.
I can imagine. I have one, and my hands are full already.
And how are you finding this summer? Your kid's not at school yet.
She is, and I'm in fact dreading the 9th of July when school breaks and they get 2 months off. Yeah. So I'm literally just holding myself tight for that ride.
Yeah, I feel you. I mean, yeah, it's once you get into it, it's fine, but it very is like it's like jumping in cold water. It's like you don't want to do it, but once you do it, you have a good swim. I'm also terrible at my metaphors, so if that didn't work, I'm sorry. But yeah, so what projects have you been keeping yourself busy with?
A couple of things. Family and maternity and newborn photo shoots are something that I have to do at a continuous pace, I mean, ever since the lockdown has slightly lifted, clients have been walking in. People are realizing how important it is to chronicle just these very special moments of life. I think it's the pandemic has been quite a awakening for people in general as to what is most important. So it's been good for the photography industry in general in terms of getting more business. That is something that's a steady stream of work that I have been doing ever since things have become a bit better. Also, I've started to schedule my workshops, so I will be traveling to Israel in October. So things are in the works for that. Hopefully, if US opens up, September is US. And I'm also working on this personal project, which is, as a photographer, I mean, I of course started it off as a passion, and then it soon turned into a business without me realizing that. The moment it turned into business, passion slowly started walking out of the door,
Yeah.
And so a year down the line, when I realized that I felt completely at loss of creative words, I felt like I had lost my speech, and I didn't feel happy with what I was creating because all I was doing was client work. I started focusing more on taking time out every month to do something just for myself, a project that was all about what my vision is, what is my story, what is it that I want to tell through my art. And that's something that I have been continuously doing over these past 7 years. So currently I'm working on a personal project which is about motherhood and scars. So I'm just literally photographing mothers from different walks of life. Awesome. So that's something that's been keeping me busy lately.
Very interesting.
Yeah, that's cool. I do want to delve into that topic of the kind of art with soul aspect to your work. I think that'll be pretty good. I know that some of our listeners have struggled, with finding their voice or even trying to understand, as wedding photographers mostly, and filmmakers, what that kind of means for the work that we do. Because obviously we're shooting weddings, and weddings are other people's days, so it's interesting to kind of find the our voice in what the work should be for our clients. So yeah, it'll be an interesting discussion. I mean, obviously you are an educator.
Yes.
I actually didn't realise, but you're a professor of photography at Spain's most reputable photography institute, the EFTI.
So I am a visiting faculty there. So I go there once or twice a year to conduct workshops for students. It's actually really, really fulfilling. I never thought, back in school, back in uni, I never thought I would turn up to be a professor. I mean, I was one of the backbenchers always, trying to sneak out of the classroom. So it's quite a fun ride. I mean, when they approached me back in 2017, I was quite taken aback as to an institute getting in touch with me to start teaching photography there. It's very fulfilling. These are young millennials who want to set foot into the industry, and it's interesting to be able to give them an industry perspective as well as tell them the theoretical part of the art. It's a lot of fun. I mean, it makes me suddenly feel young with them, no matter what my age.
Yeah.
Good stuff.
This is completely off topic, but I was having a conversation with someone on a recent shoot that we were doing for a gym, and the photographer that we were working beside, because obviously we're filmmakers, he was talking about how he was kind of higher up in the company. He's quite old, he's 33, and he's looking at me as if I'm a young boy. And I have to, I mentioned my age is 35, and he's absolutely gobsmacked. I don't know if I told you about this, Greg, but Greg and I we suffer from the gift.
Quite fresh-faced.
Yeah, it's a gift and a curse that we both look like very young boys, and the fact that over the period I had grown quite a big beard, which it was funny when I shaved it off a couple of weeks ago, because all my kids got one hell of a fright. They didn't know who I was for a good minute, which is quite a fun experience for our dad listeners out there. You should absolutely try that. It's quite entertaining. Anyway, we're going to go on a little bit. I do want to dive into a little bit about who you are, Sujata, but I'm going to do a Q&A reminder. I already see someone's put their hand up in Clubhouse. Thank you very much for doing that. We kind of, because this is a podcast recording, we save all the questions for a Q&A section at the end. So stay and listen, and if you have any questions, we'll collect them at the end. If you're not listening live in Clubhouse and you aren't a member of our Patreon, you are leaving some amazing content on the table, as you'll only be able to get access to the Q&A section through our Patreon at patreon.com/perspective by Cinemate, and you can listen back to the Q&A. I always like to ask this next question because it's kind of a hit or miss with some of our guests. Some guests enjoy it, some guests don't. But obviously, I've already given you a small introduction as to who you are and what you do. But I always like to see how our guests define themselves. So, Sujata, who are you and what do you do?
That is a tough question, huh? Oh my God, I'm many people at the same time. It's interesting, Simon, you asked that question to me today, because I was just literally yesterday telling my friend over the phone that it's incredible how many hats I wear on the same day itself.
Yes.
So yeah, I'm just many people. I'm just many people, and I'm just many stories, and hence I am a storyteller.
Nice, yeah.
Yeah.
So obviously
very philosophic.
This podcast is the main sort of listening audience as photographers and filmmakers. So we're going to talk about your sort of photography throughout most of today. So how did your journey in photography start?
Yeah, so I started photography. It was just a funny tryst of destiny. I am Indian, and I moved to the UK over a decade ago when I got married to my husband. And back in India, I was a journalist and a radio presenter. I was a DJ. So nothing to do with photography at all. No formal qualification in photography. Never would my colleagues back then would imagine me becoming a photographer. Anyway, moved to the UK. None of my qualifications back in India worked here. So I was pretty much unemployed for the next 5 years. And being the person that I am, I was always very, very self-reliant. So depending on my husband's money and, just being entirely dependent on another individual made me go down a very, very dark space. So, I remember hitting the rock bottom, and I remember being told that I'm bipolar and prescribed medication for curing my depression, and then amidst all of this, my daughter was born. A friend of mine called me up and she said, you're unemployed and things are looking down. The best way to find solution to any problem in life once you're married is to have a child. Somehow she thought that was a rock solid solution. So I had my daughter.
That's terrible advice, by the way. Terrible advice.
Oh my God. Anyway, whatever. I mean, it ended up being a good thing for me generally in life. So there are no regrets. But from the looks of it, we are quite a prolific, I'd say, couple. So I mean, one try and I got pregnant, and sorry for the extra details, but just for a bit of jest. And then I had my daughter, and I went deeper into depression, and came a point where I literally told myself it's this way or that way. I have to make a decision as to whether I want to go down with what's happening to me or I lift myself and find a path. And I had no clue why my husband at one point during my pregnancy bought me a Canon EOS 450D. It's an amateur camera. Mm-hmm. I have no clue why he got me that camera. So I just picked that camera up, and my daughter was around 3 to 4 months old. I started clicking her pictures, And that's it. That's where my journey started. I remember telling myself one day that I have nothing to lose here, nothing at all. So I just made a Facebook page and I started posting images of what I would click of my daughter, or I would just click off places on holidays or whatever. Any random images I started posting there. And friends started telling me that, you take really good images. That was surprising. So what I did was a very smart marketing trick, which is something I teach my students all the time, is to stop going on any social invitations, if you want work. So I would get birthday party invites and dinner invites from my friends, and I would just send my daughter and my husband there. And I would ask my husband to tell them, oh, Sujata is really busy with her photo shoots and she's been busy photographing clients and she never has any time. And I'd actually be sitting back home cooking meal for them when they come back home. So it just sort of created a sense of urgency in my friends about how busy a photographer I have become. And it went around like Chinese whisper, and people started booking me just because there was this sense of FOMO in them. And that's it. That's where my first client started to come from. And it's been 7 years. I've not looked back.
That is very cool. That takes some strength, by the way. So well done. That's awesome.
Thank you.
Going back to your husband giving you a camera. Now, I'm not saying your husband did this, but I sometimes buy my wife stuff that I don't think she's ever going to use, but I might get the benefit of.
Case in point, your hot tub that you bought her.
Oh, that is the perfect example. I bought my wife a hot tub one year, and I actually use it more than she does at this point. Which, we did have a lovely birthday. It was a fantastic party, but since then, I do get the most use out of the hot tub. But then I do live in that thing. So, yeah. Again, I'm not saying your husband did that, but I do it. So.
Yes, husbands do have the knack for buying gifts for themselves. Disguised as gifts for their wives. Yeah.
Yes. But considering you did get the use of it and it spawned this incredible part of your life, good going.
Yeah, what a good gift.
What a good guy. Good gift. So yeah, obviously you've mentioned some of these struggles, and I feel that as creative individuals that we all kind of go through our own series of troubles. But I do want to read something that you put on your website. You said, 5 years ago I picked up the camera, but quickly discovered that there was more to photography than gear and taking images. After years of self-doubt and frustration with my work, I started to work on the voice, the soul of my art. For the newcomers in our industry listening to this podcast, could you talk a little bit about those issues that you dealt with on your journey as a photographer, you know, the self-doubt and the frustration, because I feel like it is quite a common issue.
Self-doubt, Simon, I feel is something that's like a part of my body. It's like a limb, you know. Once you become an artist, you cannot separate your art from self-doubt. I feel like it's just they walk together hand in hand, and it's just a hazard. And you have to just sometimes be kind to yourself. It's also very unfortunate, the industry that we are in right now, the times that we are in right now. Just an extra like on Instagram, just an extra like on Facebook just lifts up our day like nothing else. I mean, that's the validation we are seeking for continuously. So that's the journey I will be on. I was on day one of being a photographer, and I know I will be on forever as long as I am a creative being and I'm surviving. So I remember when I started off, like I mentioned right in the beginning to you as well, it was a passion. It was a thing about passion. I loved taking photographs of my daughter and her relationship with my dog. And suddenly I started receiving these calls for people wanting me to photograph their family. And soon passion turned into profession, and passion decided to walk out of my house. So I was continuously photographing these families, and I was creating work for them. I was giving them their memories. But what is it that I was doing for myself? Nothing at all at the end of the day, except for the money in my pocket. Which is why, creating your personal projects, working on something that is literally entirely 100% for yourself. Like literally yesterday, I was doing this photo shoot. Like I told you, I'm working on this project with on motherhood and scars, and it actually came from a very, very personal space in my life. I lost my mother 2 years ago, and the only way for me to find closure to my inner demons is through expressing myself in my art. And that's the place from where this project has come. You know, it's just motherhood. I'm just trying to, I don't know, pay ode to my mother or to mothers out there, all of them. Anyway, so as part of that project, I was photographing this mom yesterday. I don't even know where I started from and how I've reached here. What was
It's okay, keep going. I love
we
this
do
journey.
that, right? We do that so many times. Yeah, correct. So she asked me, she said, so how many mothers are you photographing as part of this project? I said, I haven't decided. She said, so what are you going to do with this project? I mean, you told me that you're not going to monetize this project. So what are you going to do with it? Are you going to exhibit it? Are you going to put it, publish a book with it? I said, I don't know. I really don't know, because I am genuinely doing it for myself. And the full sense of fulfillment it gives me, that no matter how bad technically the image that I'm creating is going to be, because I ended up actually creating a studio setup for it, even though when I'm not a studio photographer. But yesterday I felt I had a vision that I need to create a studio setup for this specific image. And maybe it's just technically all wrong. Maybe I will post it on Instagram tomorrow and maybe I'll just get 10 likes. But I am so satisfied with what I have created yesterday because it's for me. And that's what is so essential for us to do as photographers, so that we can bypass this sense of self-doubt. Self-doubt only comes when you're creating something that's for external validation. When you're doing it for yourself, you will not doubt it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's actually true. In fact, I heard recently, and I can't remember who said this, but comparison is the thief of joy, and I feel that's
so true.
I feel like in this world of social media and so many people looking at our work, that it does actually, there is a something lost in that. So yeah.
Sorry to hear about your mother, but it's good to see that you're sort of honouring her with this project and that it's giving you some closure as well. That's great that you're able to do that.
Thanks.
So Simon mentioned the quote there that you said something about there's more to photography than gear and images. So can you expand on that and what more you feel there is?
Yeah, I mean, as an educator, I often see photographers coming to me, and I ask them, "What is that one thing that you'll want to learn from me?" And they continuously keep saying, "It's your editing that we want to learn," and I keep telling them that it is not the editing that makes my work my work. I can teach you every single step of how I edit my images over and over again, but you will not be able to capture the soul, the vision of my work. So I feel like art is more about the vision. It is more about the story. It is more about what you're saying through every single image. Every single time your art goes out there for the audiences to look at, what is it that it does to them? That is what your style is. Does it make them cry? Does it make them laugh? Does it make them feel something? Does it make them nostalgic? Does it give them any sense of a feeling and emotion? If that is what your art is able to achieve, then it is beyond just a photo. And that is something that what I personally feel every photographer or every artist should endeavor to achieve, and that is what will set you apart from somebody else's work.
Yeah.
So that's what I essentially mean by the soul.
So like I said earlier, I think that many people find it hard to find their voice in the work that they want to put out, whether that is because of social media and comparing their favorite photographers to themselves, or even just not really knowing the kind of work that they want to do. How do you think people can find their own voice, do you think? Because I know there's not really one thing that us as a collective can do. So it's kind of a hard question, I suppose, to answer, because there isn't one method to fit all. To find, your voice. It's not like, I don't know, a BuzzFeed top 10 things to find your voice for your work, So, yeah.
I mean, I feel like I'll start sounding like a broken record because, the one thing that I will keep reiterating is the fact that is the importance of doing your own personal projects,
Yeah.
over and over and over again. As an artist, you need to set aside the business side of your work and the passion apart from each other completely and give equal time to both. You need the money in the bank so that you can bring food on table at the end of the day, of course. So you need to do all the work that you are doing for your clients, but you need to do your own personal projects because it's a journey. I mean, what is art? Art is just the inside of you depicting itself outside. It's just the manifestation of what is within you. That's what art is. So if you don't hear yourself from within, if you don't spend time with yourself, if you're continuously looking at other people's work and saying, I want to grow up and be you, then you will never grow up and be yourself. So a lot of emphasis on doing your own personal projects. A very important part also of building your own voice, finding your soul through your art, is to be able to find your tribe within your community. It's such an alienating profession that we are in. I mean, I'm always just an island when I'm working. And there are so many times that I want to sound off my ideas, my thoughts, my inner demons through to somebody else who will understand me at the same artistic with the same artistic language as I speak.
Yeah.
And so it's so important to find your tribe. So important.
Yes, absolutely. We could not agree with you more, to be honest. We are very much community over competition.
Yes.
As a way to improve, yourself as a creative, to improve your work, and just like you said, like feeling like an island. Like when you are that way, you're not opening up to new ideas or new processes that can totally change your work for the better. And I think a lot of people kind of miss out. And that actually might be a bigger deal moving forward now, coming out of COVID, where people have been, so isolated. But it'll be interesting to see how people get together and keep chatting about their work.
Absolutely.
But yeah, if you can't find your voice, it really just means you're hollow inside, that you have no soul. I'm kidding.
That was nice.
I've got a bad sense of humor. I'm a bad man. So let's talk about your work, in particular your newborn and family stuff, just for a bit. Obviously, I said in the intro that you're London based. So does all your work kind of need to be in the London area? Like where's the furthest you would travel?
Anywhere in the world. I mean, like I told you, I'm usually never home, and I'm mostly always traveling, running workshops in different parts of the world. So wherever I go, I get my clients there, whichever part of the world I travel to.
Yeah, and do you travel? Do you do the travel first and then book your clients, or is your travel dictated by your clients?
Usually, it is first the introduction of the workshop.
Okay.
Or the masterclass that I'm running in whichever country it is. And the moment I just introduce my masterclass on my social media handles, I start receiving inquiries for photo shoots in those countries as well. So I always book the photo shoots before traveling, because I also need to, have somebody on ground to do the recce for the location for me and just do the back end work. And if I'm not prepared for it and just walking into a shoot straight on, then I won't be able to produce the required results.
Mm-hmm. How many sort of shoots are you roughly doing a month, or what's it? How does it break down? Is it more workshops than shoots?
Yeah. Definitely. I am more of an educator. I will be very, very honest, and I hate this about myself. But the more I have started to delve into my own personal projects, the more impatient I have become about client work. I find it really ridiculous about myself. It's not a good trait, and I'm not proud of it. But I am extremely impatient, so I cannot pander to a million queries. And many a times, people come to me for my work, which they do because I charge such a high price that I cannot imagine anybody coming to me until they are 100% convinced that they want my work. But yet at the same time, I sometimes feel clients are like children, they feel like they want this candy, but when they go to the candy store, they just don't know what they want. So I so many times get my clients sending me Pinterest images of somebody else's work saying, I am obsessed with your work, Sujata. Can you do this image for me? And then I can't take that. I mean, I just don't know how to react to that. So so which means that I don't promote my client work a lot. So if it comes in through the door on its own, I am happy with it. If it doesn't, I am really making enough money for myself through my workshops. So I'd say prior to pandemic, when I was traveling endlessly, it used to be not more than 3 photo shoots a month. And now it's not more than 7. I don't go beyond that.
Yeah. Obviously, the pandemic and COVID words have been mentioned, and it's hard to avoid that topic just now. So how has your work changed because of that? Has there been a pivot? Or obviously travel's affected where you can do workshops. So what changes have you made to your work because of last year?
Business-wise, Simon, it was very, very important. And as we can see, the online education industry has just blossomed. Like, I think last year it was online gaming that just, burst. And now I feel like online education has just like literally taken over the world and the economy. So of course, all my work has gone online as well as a result. So all my my editing video tutorials, something that I was keeping really close to my chest and not trying to share with anybody, I have just like given it all away now. All of it is online to be purchased. All my light video tutorials, everything that I am able to teach online is available as a source online on my website now.
Very cool.
So that has made time really, really available for me. I'm spending more time with my family. I'm working more on my personal projects. So that's on the business side, of course. I'm also initiating into television direction. So I've just signed a contract for a news channel in Southeast Asia where I will be producing a show for them. So that's going to be interesting.
Yeah, that's exciting.
Yeah, something that I had done in the past, very, very long ago when I was a TV journalist. So I'm just picking up that chapter all over again in my life. Interesting stuff.
Yeah.
And also, pandemic has changed me as a person. Hence, it has changed my voice. I used to focus a lot on the magic of childhood as my personal journey because I've had a very, very difficult childhood. So, I literally through my art, I was trying to recreate a more fantastical version of my childhood, which I have actually not lived, but is just But as a result of the pandemic, I've just felt that I feel like my art needs to have more meaning, way more meaning than what it had. So, which is why the motherhood series as well. So yeah, that's that business and passion both completely transformed after the pandemic.
Yeah. So let's get to more practical chat. What is your approach to a family session then? How do you go about shooting it?
Well, there are two types of family sessions I do. There is so that's something that I tell my students as well, many a times, because once you become a storyteller, sometimes many a clients come to you to capture those kind of storytelling images for you, what they see on your social media handles. And yet at the same time, there are clients who want to come to you for a classic set of images that they can post, that they can create big prints of, where they're all looking at the camera and smiling and looking like this perfect family that never fights. Husband and wife are not ready to divorce each other. They are straight out of Slimming World, straight out of a salon blow dried. Yeah. So, I mean, then there is that sort of a classic package. So I have those two different sort of family packages available. My approach is very standard. I mean, I go with what my client wants. That because it's their vision, it's their life that they want to be captured. And so I completely 100% go with them. I always send them a form to fill where they tell me what their vision is, what is it that they want to create, what are the kind of locations they want to go to. If it's a classic shoot, I keep the clothes also very, timeless, because 20 years later, 30 years later, I don't want them to look back at those images and say, oh my God, what is this Apple Watch that I'm wearing? It's so huge, because 25 years later, maybe it'll be way more slimmer and I don't know what. So I keep the clothes, the styling very, very neutral and very, very timeless. We go to a location, a beautiful outdoor location close to sunset, so that the light is soft. And my maximum emphasis is on posing them right and bringing out the emotions, making sure the husbands have their car keys and their wallets out of their pockets, and making sure that even if they don't really love each other just as much, it still looks through the images that they are madly in love with each other. So yeah, that's how I do my family photo shoots.
I did notice in your images that there's shafts of light, and a lot of your work is kind of backlit, so you can kind of get this kind of soft haloing effect. Is that something that you look for as well?
Yes, absolutely, Simon. That's a good point that you've picked. I focus a lot on light, so I would say that if you look at the elements level, my images have only three main elements, which is light, color, and depth of field. So light is something that I pay a lot of attention to. I'm a natural light photographer. If I am doing an outdoor photo shoot, I will make sure that I'm going closer to sunset at a location where there is a lot of tree cover around the location, so that the sunlight is softly filtering through the tree branches before it's falling on the subject. Because I want to create that sort of a magical aura, and if the light is not soft enough, the magic will go away. And I always make sure that the subject is standing in a position where the sun is either behind or falling through an angle, a 90-degree angle onto the subject, and not facing the subject, because then you get a lot of harsh highlights. So that's where you get the rim from. Yes. Backlit images.
Yeah. I mean, our work is on the darker end for film, but we said this before in the podcast, but it's very much a cinematographer's trick is to backlight quite a lot, or to sidelight. If you look at kind of well-produced TV ads, or even further into cinematography, like movies, and like if you pay attention to the way that they light, it's very much all backlight.
Yeah.
No, not all backlight, but unless they're trying to say something, it will be a lot back or sidelight. Let's get into a little bit more about the narrative before we talk more about colors and your approach, because there is a narrative to your images, but how would you introduce that into an image?
How do you introduce that into an image narrative? There are quite a few, sometimes you have to, no matter how much soul you want to infuse in your art, you have to still look at it from a very practical, step by steps perspective, So I've literally broken my art down into these specific steps that I need to follow to make my art create that impact. So, for example, one of the most important things, the very first step into creating a narrative style image is picking up the right models. So the very first thing that I always do before I'm walking into a photo shoot is to write down the caption of the image that I'm going to post. Because when I write down that caption, I know what emotion I'm going to work on. Once I've got the caption written, then I figure out what are the kind of models that will fit that vision of my caption. So that is how I do my model call. So I work backwards.
Okay.
I first figure out the emotion. Once I've figured out the emotion, that is when I look for the models. Now, again, models, searching for your models is also a sort of a science. You need to study the trends in industry, of course, to know what is it that's working really well. Reflections work very, very well. Freckles work very well. Ginger hair work very well. Just giving you a very, very crude example of what is it that the industry is focusing a lot on lately in terms of portraits or on images. So if, for example, these are the trends that are working, how can you imbibe these trends into your own art to make it your own? So that is one of the very easy ways to capture narrative style photography. Or what is the emotion that works really well? Little babies. If a baby is smiling, a tiny little newborn baby is sleeping and smiling in an image, an emotion that works superbly well every single time, So, easy way to figure out what kind of model to pick or what kind of story to pick. So the easiest way is always to start with the emotion. Based on that emotion, do your correct model search. Based on the emotion, then again, find the right location that is going to fit that narrative. And then go at the right time of the day, carry your correct gear and do minimum amount of editing. The more you edit or the more props you add to your image, the more you'd snatch away from the narrative. So I keep it very clean. My styling is always very, very understated so that it does not take away the attention from what the story is going to be. Yeah. So these are a couple of tricks that I use.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I think having the caption in mind from that early stage must be something that's quite unique, because I think a lot of people, when it comes to sort of thinking of a caption for a post, it's the last thing they think of. It's like, I'm going to post this image. What do I say about it? So the way you do it's pretty different.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I'm not sure. Maybe that is because, with weddings, it's kind of live events. So you capture something as it was, you can't construct it too much.
True.
So I do wonder if that might just be part of our industry. But then I know people who aren't in the wedding industry who do, save the captioning for last, and they do struggle with it. So interesting. I also see in your work that you are drawn to the outdoors and animals as well. I mean, children and animals, there is the advice that you never work with children and animals. And you go ahead and you just do it all. So what draws you to all those elements?
I mean, I don't know. I've grown up reading P.G. Wodehouse. So I don't know if you've read any of his works, but I've grown up reading a lot about the British countryside. And when I never thought I was going to get married to a guy who lived in the UK, but I loved the British countryside always in my imagination. And then when I got married to my husband, I said, either I live right in the center of the heart of the city in London, so that I can meet all the people and, be a part of the buzz, or I live all the way back of the beyond in the countryside. I mean, don't send me and keep me anywhere in the middle. And that's exactly where we ended up being. Where I live right now is neither the heart of the London city nor the countryside. So I just somehow end up wetting my soul or fulfilling that love for the British countryside by actually capturing it in my images. And what is British countryside? It's all about the beautiful, endless farms. You cannot find those kind of farms anywhere else in the world, you know. So yeah, I'm always drawn to those wonderful animals and children. Of course, I like I said, childhood is just a mere reconstruction of what I did not have for me. So I just bring those two elements together.
Yeah. Do you have any practical advice then for people who are working with, specifically children and animals together? Like
Lots.
Yeah. We'll dive in, because it's obviously not something that we do very much in wedding filmmaking. But I'd love to hear more about it. How do you work with these crazy energies for creating an image?
Lots of things have to be taken care of. First of all, you need to have a rock solid contract to make sure that, first of all, you need to have a full liability cover. Your insurance needs to be very, very strong, because especially me, I mean, I'm working in many, many different countries with animals. So I need to have, I pay a high insurance on my business. Very, very important. You need to have a very solid contract where you have very clearly stated that any injury caused during the photo shoot is going to be not your liability, but the liability of the models or the parents. Practical. I mean, you've got to make sure your contracts are always signed before you walk into such photo shoots. Many a times I try. Most of the times, my effort is to make sure that the animals belong to the family of the parents, of the models themselves. That just simplifies things for you. The baby is acquainted with the animal. There is no hesitation. There is no fear of, not a heightened fear of injury. Many a times, however, that does not happen. My clients come to me and they say, we want to go to a farm for a photo shoot. In those cases, you have to make sure that on the safety side, you have to make sure that the farm owners are always around and are around to take care of the animals, are around to guide you which are the animals that are kinder towards children. I don't like working with horses. Horses are very, very unpredictable. So I try. Initially, in the beginning of my career, when I was obviously not in the know of what are the rights and wrongs of doing this, I worked with a lot of horses as well. Soon I realized that's not a very safe thing to do. So I don't really work with a lot of horses. But tiny animals like ducklings or I don't know. Sheep, for example, as well, are very docile beings. They are easier to work with. Now, on the practical side of shooting, you have to make sure that you are very, very quick with your shutter speed. So my shutter speed when I'm photographing children and animals, which are very fast moving subjects, is very high, usually between 500 to 1200, anywhere between 1/500 to 1/1200, depending on how much ambient light there is in nature, or how fast moving the animals are. You have to end up sometimes, in fact, in most cases, create composites. So what I usually do is I place the child in the same horizontal line of frame, focus, and I'm sitting in one position. I capture the child. I immediately ask the parents to come and pick the child. I am sitting right there. I'm not moving. I get my assistant to, or I ask the farm owner to stand exactly where the child was sitting with a bowl of food to attract the animal. The moment the animal moved towards the bowl of food, I capture the animal, and then I put the two frames together to create a narrative of where it seems like that the animal is actually interacting with the child. So that's another very easy and effective way of capturing animals and children together, where it's also safe. You need to also make sure that your focus is on continuous focus again, not one-stop focus, because in that case, your camera will block the focus even before you've hit the shutter, and the subjects would have already moved. So these are a few practical tips that you need to take care of. Also, to know what kind of animals look cute, what don't look cute. Not all animals are cute. Like, for example, most of the farms in UK actually have more hens than they have ducks. So I get throughout the year, if I'm looking for a chick, I can find a chick. But chicks look ugly. They really, really look like like a stuffed taxidermy toy in the shot and they look really horrible. Rabbits, again, I mean, you put a real rabbit. I've put so many times real rabbits in the shots and people have asked me if it's a stuffed toy. So you've got to make sure you've picked the right animal. Ducklings look damn cute. They look damn cute, but they only are born between, I think, March to May. So you need to know what months they are born.
Yeah.
So yeah, just a couple of practical things here and there. Yeah.
That's very cool. Obviously you mentioned when, March, May. Do you time those specific shoots to work with those specific animals at that time? Or are you more, you have an image in mind and say your image, you wanted a duck, but it wasn't that time of year. Would you just switch it out for another animal, or would you save that for next year and just plan accordingly? Does that make sense?
Yeah. I mean, now I've actually moved ahead of just photographing animals and children. That narrative has walked out of my brain already. But when I used to focus a lot on animals and children, I wouldn't really wait. I mean, I know a couple of animals that will definitely look cute, like a baby duck, like a duckling, a kitten, or a puppy. Get either of those three into the shot and you're sure to hit the, like 1,000+ likes on your image. It's definitely going to happen. So if I'm not getting a duckling because it's height of November, I'll go seek somebody who's got a kitten or a puppy.
Yeah.
I don't hold on. My vision can't hold on for the next year.
Okay, fair enough. I was going to say that did seem quite a step to plan for a specific image. But yeah, no, that's cool. I don't know if I mentioned this, but Greg, did I tell you that I saved a baby duck?
No, don't remember.
Yeah. A mother duck and her 5 babies came into the estate that I live on, and there was a small group of parents looking for them because they had all separated. And so, for those of our listeners who don't know, I'm getting a outhouse built, like a garden room, to be a gym, but it's a building site. Or it was actually completed today, but it was a building site. And this little duckling had managed to wriggle its way under piles of wood and had just stayed there. So I had to kind of very carefully dig it out and save this little tiny duckling. Aww. It was very cute. Very cute.
That's cute.
Kids loved it. But yeah, so just a Q&A reminder. I'll just do that just now. If you're not listening live on Clubhouse and you are a member of our Patreon page, you are leaving some amazing content on the table, as you can only get access to our Q&A section through the Patreon at patreon.com/perspective by Cinemate. The link is in the show notes if you want to check that out. Talking about insurance, though, one of our sponsors is With Jack. So hit that button, Greg.
With Jack was designed from the ground up and is tailored specifically for creatives. Whether you provide a service like design, development or photography, or offer advice to clients, With Jack is for you. It's focused on creatives. Insurance shouldn't be complicated, so With Jack has made every step easy. You'll deal with one form and talk to one Jack as you sign up, get covered and move on with your day. With Jack is all about bespoke insurance for creatives. Simple. That doesn't mean more forms or faff, it means less. It's not about endless features and stale service. It's about one solid policy and the personal touch. Bye-bye unnecessary fuss. Hello, creative friendly insurance. Be a confident creative.
So yes, insurance is very important. So thank you very much for bearing with us there. I want to get back into talking about the quality of your work. Obviously, we did kind of cover this a little bit, but whether it's newborns or right through to the older couples that you shoot, there is this soft, hazy quality, and it feels very comforting when you look at your images. They're very warm and colorful, and it makes me feel very happy inside. Yeah, it's like obviously going outside is very important to you. The way that you use light, how it wraps around your subjects. It's it's almost as if the background doesn't matter exactly, but it's just this beautiful visual duvet that kind of surrounds your subject. Can you talk a little bit about how you approach light? I mean, you obviously mentioned it earlier, but could you go into a little bit more detail as to how you use light? You know, a lot of newcomers to the industry, they hear all these words like soft light, harsh light, you know, directional, backlit. They might not understand the practical, you know, elements to try and find these. So I'm actually glad you mentioned that. Do you ever struggle though with finding a location to get good light?
Not really. I mean, I've been around for 7 years. I found my pet places. You know, I have a bunch of places where I will always shoot. But finding good light is not difficult at all. It's not at all difficult. I mean, I'm actually always seeking light. You just have to have your blinkers on all the time. I'm always in work mode. So no matter wherever I'm traveling, I'm always seeking light. And if I find the right patch of light somewhere at some hour of the day, I just, you know, send that location to myself on WhatsApp, and I know the next time I'm going to shoot. At that hour of the day, I'll go there and shoot. So finding light is not difficult when you have understood what is the right light.
Yeah. How does your approach change? You mentioned sort of photographing like a 95-year-old grandparent or something, and that's a big part of your work, is the older couples as well. So how does your approach change from working with a newborn shoot to an elderly couple shoot?
Funnily, it's actually the exact same approach, because by the time they reach that age, they have become children all over again. So it's almost, yeah, indeed. I mean, it's a very, very. However, I must say that it's a very unfortunate time of life when, you know, most of the elderlies I meet at that juncture in their life, they have dementia. Most of them. You know, so it's you have to be literally walking around with kid gloves. You can't carry your ego from home with you in your camera bag and say that, oh, I need the perfect shot. I need them to wear the perfect clothes. I need them to follow my instructions. You can't work like that when you're working with elderlies. With children, that's the only difference. I mean, you can force their parents to ask them to wear the clothes that they have to wear, and maybe the parent will just take the kid in a corner and give them a slight whack if they don't follow instructions. But that's something you can't do with elderlies. So that's the only thing you need to take care of. But otherwise, I keep my emotions, no matter how much emotion there is in the image when I'm photographing it, I actually work like a machine when I'm doing my shots. I keep my emotions aside. I know that the practical way of working with an elderly that age is to make sure that only the family member is relaying the instructions to them. I do not try to be over friendly with them. I do not try to become their daughter. I make sure I am only interacting with their direct family member, because they become very fidgety. They are very weary of strangers. They don't know why the hell is this stranger standing in front of them with a camera and asking them to hold a flower or interact with a great grandson whom they have never met before the shoot, you know. Or asking them to pose with their husband, who they in fact don't even talk to now, because both of them are sitting in different parts of the house watching their own set of television shows. So just make sure suggestions, shoot instructions are relayed via the family member. Make sure you write down your poses. Make sure you're done in and out of the shoot within 30 minutes max. That's the best elderlies will give time to you for. Make sure your shoot location, the distance between the parking lot to the exact shoot location is not more than 100 meters. 100 meters is a lot as well. Make sure you remind them over and over and over again to either bring the wheelchair of the elderlies or whatever walking support they need. That should be carried along with it. Make sure you already tell them what to wear. And that needs to be a genuine part of their wardrobe already. I mean, you cannot ask them to wear something entirely different from what they don't wear on a regular basis. They will not do that. Keep your poses as simple as possible. Like, really keep it bloody simple. Give them a flower in their hand and ask them to interact with the flower. Literally. I mean, literally as simple as that. That's what you need to do in your shoots. And carry a vintage piece of furniture. Always a rocking chair.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Do you have a big car?
Yeah, my husband actually working in a car company, so we get a new car every 3 months. So, yeah.
Awesome.
perks of his profession.
Yeah. Oh, that's cool. I wouldn't have thought about that. I'm assuming then when you're photographing older couples that you're not doing, like, they're not your client, that maybe their children are your client. Would I be correct in assuming that?
I started this off as a project, actually. Simon, it was my personal project. So I started just literally doing model calls, looking for grandparents and grandchildren.
Yeah.
And then eventually clients started coming to me saying, it funnily became a trend in the industry. Now I'm so happy about it. So many family albums have great grandparents and grandparents in them as well.
Yeah.
So clients started coming over saying, can I bring my parents along for the photo shoot? And then I would say, if your parents are coming, that one image in which I'm going to involve your parents as well in the shot is going to be a gift from me. Because that's just my way of giving it back to the society. Yeah.
Oh, I love that. I think you've given quite a lot of good practical advice. I actually wouldn't have thought. I mean, Greg and I don't really shoot elderly couples. We primarily go the younger route because of weddings. But it's so funny. I would love to hear more from people who do shoot elderly couples, because I feel like it's not something that you often see on social media. It might just be because that, we're only following wedding suppliers, I suppose. But it's nice to hear, well, you said it was a trend. So yeah, that's quite nice. Like I mentioned in the introduction of the podcast, your work has been featured in some amazing publications, actually. How did that come about? Like what's your approach to getting featured? Because I feel that is something that a lot of wedding industry individuals, photographers, filmmakers, I feel like that's a goal for them to strive towards. So what's your approach to getting featured?
Again, I'm going to come back exactly to where we started from, personal projects. I give this advice to my students over and over again. Come up with a theme that is something that has a story to it, has a very, very strong story to it, and create images around that narrative, a series of images around that narrative, and then posting series, which are, a theme-based series that have not just one set of images, but more than that. It's much, much easier for that kind of work to be recognized or to go what you call viral, than just, one-off pieces or one-off images of any kind. So it's very important to come up with your personal projects that have a strong, sensitive, humanitarian or an emotional connect, or a more, something that goes with the news or something that goes with the times, anything that you think is relevant, come up with a project like that. So I remember my very first work that actually went viral was, and tell your story, tell stories along with it continuously. The very first work that went viral was my images of my daughter and my dog. And I wrote about it on Facebook very randomly, and I wasn't even much later in my career at that time. I think it was around a year and a half into being a photographer, and I posted all the images together, and I wrote my story of my journey of going through depression, and how when my daughter was born, I couldn't even touch her. I mean, my doctor, it's called skin to skin. The moment your child is born, the doctor brings the child to you, to the mother, to have a skin to skin touch with the child. And when they brought my daughter to me, I just said, please take her away. I cannot bear it right now. And I wrote about that in my narrative on Facebook when I was sharing the stories of my daughter Ayat and my dog Mustang. And I said, but I'm healed, and I find healing has come through capturing this bond that my daughter shares with my dog. And I shared it, and never did I ever think that work would go viral or it would be shared so much by in media. There were so many media inquiries that I had to turn down simply because I felt like I was hinging over the privacy of my daughter. I mean, I don't want her to grow up and tell me I was published all over the world, where you were talking about your depression and having pushed me aside when I was born. So, which is why I brushed aside a lot of media inquiries on that story, simply out of fear. But that is one learning for me that came through sharing that work was share your story, share your demons. Don't be scared of sharing your demons. If they can cause you depression, then they can be your victory as well. That's a great way of just getting your work published. Also, guest posting. On a very practical side, guest posting is a concept that is very famous nowadays. There's a website called Board Panda. Pardon my Indian accent, but it is BOREDPANDA.com, boardpanda.com. And you can just go and write an article about your work there yourself. So I, every year, whenever I've finished my series of work, project, I go and self-publish an article on myself or my series on Board Panda. And all the media houses from across the world go there for their entertainment nuggets. So if your work gets on the front page of Board Panda's website, there's a huge likelihood that your work will be picked up by media houses as well. So that's another way.
Yeah, that's really interesting because we've spoken to a lot of guests on this podcast. Board Panda has never come up.
No, and we've talked a lot about social media and all that sort of stuff, but yeah, Board Panda's not been mentioned.
There you go.
So it's a platform for you to self-publish your own work?
Yep.
Like a blog? Because we all have blogs as, well, I don't want to say all. The majority of wedding suppliers have blogs. And I'm wondering, so if you were to write a blog that you would put on your website, would you could you use the same images, the same text and publish it on? Oh, interesting.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So what is your approach to social media then? Is Board Panda the main avenue that you use, or is Instagram, Facebook? How do you use these platforms?
Instagram and Facebook both, yeah. They are the main places where I publish my work. Board Panda is just once a year. Once I finished my series, I just go and write an article about what is that series about. A short snippet article. People are not interested in reading; they're interested in your images. A catchy caption. That's about it. And then I just leave it to destiny to figure out the speed at which it catches fire. But Instagram and Facebook are the main places where I publish my work.
Yeah. Okay. How do people write a catchy caption? Is there? I feel like there's an art to it, but I'm not sure because I feel like I'm quite often like Greg said before, like I'm one of those people who think about the caption last and do struggle with putting, the image or the section of film that we put on social media. I find it hard to find a title for that. So do you have any tips for me?
See, the cool thing about Board Panda is that if you've not written a catchy caption, but if they like the work that you have done in your article, they always vet every single article that is published on their platform. So if they don't like your caption, they'll fix it and then they'll publish the article. So you don't really need to worry for as long as your work is really good and you've got a proper theme going through it. The huge likelihood that it will get published on their website. But about catchy captions, it's just a hook, ask a question or just say something that's shocking. So
something shocking.
Yeah. Or something controversy works. So I remember the first time I had posted my first Board Panda article, I'd written I asked my husband to assist me on my photo shoot of my daughter and my dog, and it almost led to a divorce. Yeah. So just something, right? It's funny.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, all but right. The amount of trolling I got for that was hilarious. Though it taught me a lesson, though, that the more controversial your work is, the better publicity you get.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, I'm wondering if there's any of our listeners thinking, but how do you do that for wedding clients? Because obviously, the term wedding kind of needs to be kind of put into a positive spin or some sort of emotion behind it. But yeah, it's a tricky one. I feel like it's the same issue that people might struggle with putting their wedding work on a platform like TikTok, say. Because like TikTok are short, snappy, usually funny videos. I find it's quite hard to, as a wedding supplier, to balance what's funny to what's going to be construed as making fun of your clients, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
But Yeah, that's always
It's a thin line to sort of balance.
Definitely.
It is the thin line. Oh, yeah, that's actually really funny.
Yeah.
In fact, I'm gonna try Board Panda. I'm gonna write something for Board Panda. There was a TikTok clip that we had. It was a couple in Skye, and the groom, he was South African, and the groom's kilt just kept him flying up. And like, none of our videos do that well on TikTok, except for this one that has just reached 2 million views. And I always found it so interesting that hit the balance of like, oh, it's a guy with a kilt, so it was quite good because it was around the time that Harry Styles was starting to wear skirts and stuff. So the topic was kind of in the zeitgeist there, but then the comedy element of the kilt kept on riding up. So it was like the perfect balance, and trying to recreate that, or not even recreating it, just being around and being able to capture it in a way that doesn't make fun of your clients, but still, you know what I mean? It's quite an interesting one, but yeah, I'll put that on Board Panda and see. That'd be quite cool. Yeah, a good fun experiment. Awesome. Well, Sujata, thank you so much for taking the time to be with us today. I would highly recommend listeners that you follow Sujata. Are you on Clubhouse often, or was this just a courtesy for us?
I mean, I have joined Clubhouse, but I try to stay away from it. Like I said, it just otherwise sucks you in.
Yes.
So yeah, not very active.
Okay. Well, listeners, definitely follow Sujata and check out our work. Engage as well. I always try and encourage our listeners to engage with our guests. Yes, thank you very much. People can find us at cinematefilms.co.uk, on Facebook and Instagram at Cinemate Films. We hope you enjoyed this episode, and if you did, you can join us on Patreon at patreon.com/perspective by Cinemate. For as little as £1, you can support the podcast, and also where you can table discussions and any more bonus content that we create. It'll all be available there. If you don't have any money to give, that is absolutely okay. You can just hit that subscribe button and you'll get your usual podcast for free. Maybe just leave a review and we'll give you a shout out. However,
until the next time,
enjoy your life.